This episode of the EV Resource Podcast is brought to you by Titan Auto and Tire. Titan has some of the very few independent auto repair shops in Central Virginia that are qualified to work on EVs and hybrids. And from hybrids to Hummers, they fix everything. For more information and to schedule an appointment for your vehicle, go to TitanAutoTire.com.
Coming up this week, you can get to places and you're not scaring everything away with this loud noise as you're approaching.
Yeah, I would definitely sneak up on some turtles when we're cruising around there. They're hanging and oh my goodness, they dive down. You see a ton of fish. I've been out with whales, riding with whales, dolphin.
Well, hello friends, and welcome to episode 168 of the EV Resource Podcast. I'm Zack Hurst, and each week I bring you the latest EV news, information, and interviews with industry experts. So my guest today is Nick Leason with Lift Foils, and we're going to have a really great conversation about one of the emerging electric water sport spaces where you're going to see the same way we've seen with vehicle transition from traditional to an electric powertrain. We're going to see that in the marine world as well. And actually, it's been happening for quite a while. So, Nick, I want to thank you for joining me here on the EV Resource Podcast. I understand that you have been involved in like surfing, kite surfing, wind surfing. You know, basically, if it's involved water, you've been there. Before we dive into the company itself and what you guys have created, take me back to the early days and the idea of just what prompted the thought of, okay, well, this is great, but let's put an electric motor on it.
Okay, yeah. Well, one, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Yeah, we could go way back. I mean, we could talk about kind of the development into the sports itself. So, I mean, there was a long road to coming up to getting to a product, right? It's kind of a lifetime. It's like you said, we've been in water sports our whole lives. So I grew up in Puerto Rico, which is an island in the Caribbean. My parents immigrated down here from the States in the 70s, so they were youngsters. My father was involved with manufacturing with my grandfather here in Puerto Rico, and so they ended up making a lifestyle here where we were born and raised. And my father he was from Wisconsin, but he got hooked on the water sports. He was an avid skier, snow skier, and but he really fell in love with surfing. My mom was from the mountains, also a great skier, and she just fell in love with the warm weather and the culture. So we were born and raised here, but we were really grew up in a family environment that enjoyed the outdoors. So we've been surfing since I was 4, and all the wind sports, I dug in deep into windsurfing, dug in deep into kite surfing when it came out, and also went to school in the mountains out in Utah and took up skiing and snowboarding and paragliding and mountain biking. So, if there's some sort of gravity sport, we love it. We're into it.
Yeah.
Which is, where a lot of the passion kind of comes behind the brand and the product that we created. I went to school, I studied mechanical engineering, and I came back home after I graduated university, and I started this small business with my father. We were building surfboards and really stand-up paddleboards at the time too. Stand-up paddleboarding was just getting kicked off. And so we kind of found a niche in the market where we were building these 14-foot plus long stand-up paddleboards. They were full carbon fiber, all custom painted. They were racing boards.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, so people would call us up and say, I'm out in Virginia Beach and we're doing all the paddleboard races, and I'm currently getting like 7th place. And so we custom design a paddleboard for them, and they'd call us up and be like, I won, we're
Cool.
winning races. So we were making these really fine craft for stand-up paddleboards, and we were also building hydrofoils. Hydrofoiling was something that caught my attention. I had moved home from college, and I saw a friend of mine come up flying a kite. He was out kite surfing, and he was riding on a hydrofoil, a stand-up hydrofoil. And it was really cool. I mean, it's just something when you see it for the first time where you're like, your eyes, your brain's not comprehending what your eyes are seeing.
Yeah,
It's this really
sure.
neat thing. Um, and so, long story short, we ended up kind of discovering more about that product and getting into the world of hydrofoils. And it was just the coolest thing because it was carbon fiber composite construction. It was aerodynamics and hydrodynamics, which is something that I loved and studied. It was surfing, flying, sailing, right? So it was all in this little package of this cool water sporting toy
Hmm.
that just totally grabbed our attention. And so really early on, I think that was 2009. I came out and said, I'm gonna build a hydrofoil of my own. Just one for kite surfing, and I just want to understand the process.
Hmm.
I want to understand the different things that go into it. And I was fresh out of engineering school, but that didn't mean that I was much of an engineer, right? It meant that I had the technical background to help me
Sure.
out. But
Yeah.
I bought books on aerodynamics and hydrodynamics. I said, well, I got to learn, CNC machining and CAD design. I had to learn about composite molding and laying up composites like carbon fiber. And so there was a lot of things that were just like, where do you start, right? Well, let's just start reading about these different things and take a stab at it. And we did that for years. We had, so in 2010, we started a small company out here in Aguadilla in Puerto Rico. And like I said, I did it with my father. We had some really nice machinery to build surfboards. We had some machinery like a 3-axis router to tinker and design, to build hydrofoil parts and components. I didn't know exactly how to go about it, but I kind of knew what tools were required. And we had a good crew, small crew of people that were skilled in the art, right, of building surfboards and whatnot. And that's just kind of how we got going. We were building these boards. It was a really small business at the time. It was a fun project. We had a beautiful space. It was about 4,500 square feet, and we were right on the beach, in a beautiful area, right? So the water and the testing grounds were right there. And over the years, we kept tinkering with the hydrofoils. And so I started that process in 2009, right? I didn't deliver my first hydrofoil for kite surfing. I didn't deliver it until 2013, and that was in
Oh,
really small batches to friends and family, around the region. Um, and there was a process of learning how to build these and testing and whatnot. And even the first foils that went out were suspect, right? Just naturally, it was a labor of love, and we kept doing that and kept doing that for every year. And it was not like a regular 9 to 5 kind of job. It was 24/7, or minus the sleeping hours, a couple hours of sleep, but it was just nonstop. Go in there, try something, build it, fail, get back in there, try it, fail,
oh
right?
yeah.
But the flying part on a hydrofoil was so addicting and so involving. You just kept coming back for more, and the more people that got involved into it, like there's more passion that was kind of growing behind this product. And at the time, we're riding these hydrofoils with a kite. So these hydrofoils are like little airplanes that go underwater, right? And they need something to push you or pull you forward. Um, just like an airplane, you have an engine, right, with the propeller. We had a kite that was pulling us along, and we were using them to sail. But there was a problem, right? And the problem was you had to be pretty skilled to be flying a kite and flying the surfboard at the same time,
Yeah,
right?
I
And
bet.
bouncing everything. Yeah, not to say that you can't do it. And there was a group of people that around the world that were doing it, but it was such a small niche market, right? And we were so limited in the size of what we could do. Um, and so in 2015, we came up with the idea for the e-foil, which was an electrically propelled hydrofoil surfboard. And it wouldn't it be cool if we could get rid of the kite altogether? And and zip around on this thing with the propeller, with a motor and an electric battery, and how are we going to propel it? Do we need like a cable or whatnot? No, let's do like a wireless controller, right? And you'd seen there's different technologies from different industries. So you're kind of looking at that stuff and thinking, can I piece these things together? Is that a possibility? Which maybe in hindsight seems really obvious. But when the product doesn't exist and you don't really have anything to reference, it was much harder than it seemed. But
Sure.
that was kind of the start of, let's build an e-foil, right? Or wouldn't it be cool if we built an e-foil? That was 2015 that we started tinkering.
So, I mean, now, many years of innovation and to your own words, failing and then improving and then failing again, which is, I mean, that is the way to move things forward. Was the decision to go electric to make the barrier of entry, if you will, to be able to use something like that a little bit more accessible? Because like you're saying, with a kite and a foil surfboard, I imagine there's quite a steep learning curve there that you'd have to go through for quite a while to be able to kind of master something like that.
Well, I definitely wanted to break out of the small market that we were in. We were selling these paddle boards to kind of the niche market of racers, which was really fun, but it was a small group of people, and the foils for kite surfing was also a really small kind of niche market with the kiting industry. And it was a little bit, honestly, it was kind of demoralizing a little bit. Like if you go to the surf expos and whatnot, and I remember I was just a kid at the time, I was a youngster I was 23, 24 years old. And I remember just having these brands just be like, I had these hydrofoils at the show and they're like, that's never going anywhere. Really cool, but never going to catch on, never, which they're all building hydrofoils today. And I'm very proud of that. But I was, part of me was like, I'll show you guys, I'm going to bust out of this room and get into something bigger. But I think the main driving factor was, wouldn't it be cool? Once you kind of get curious about a certain product, and like, you got to build one to find out, like you got to build one to find out for yourself. And one of the first prototype that we built, I mean, the first prototype just blew up into pieces right off the start, right? So we didn't get to fly that one. But we took it back to the shop and we made some adjustments and we brought it back. And it was really just a rough, crude proof of concept. But I got it flying about, I don't know, maybe about 100 feet before the whole thing melted down and fell apart.
Okay.
But in those 100 feet, I was like, there's something really magic here. There's something really cool. And it was inside of a river. We go there frequently, but it was really tight, just kind of small river with this tall grass and beautiful trees around. So it's very different than where we had been flying a kite, right? Mm-hmm. Like we were flying kites out in the ocean, but this was this more confined waterway. And so it was really cool to be flying on an e-foil, on a hydrofoil in this really confined waterway. And even though it was 100 feet, it was like, oh, there's something here. There's something really great. Let's keep going further. And as we got into, we made some pretty big commitments at that point to really dig in. And as we got further and the product got more refined, it became apparent to us that more people were capable of riding this, and more, like, it was more accessible than we had anticipated. Okay. It was more balanced than we had anticipated. And definitely, you take away the kite and that simplifies things. And we kind of expected that, but we didn't really know 100% what to expect out of this product. Right.
Right. Sure.
And I didn't really know what to expect from people's reaction either, and the reaction was huge. It was really like when we had some more refined prototypes that we were out filming and generating some content on. I mean, I had been foiling with my kite for years up and down the coast, right? But as soon as I got rid of that kite and I came around on e-foil, I mean, people were approaching me like, what is that? What is that?
Yeah, sure.
That's, it was like Moses had just come off the water there. Like, they couldn't believe what they were seeing. Kind of like the first time when I discovered hydrofoil for myself. So lot of great things just kind of fell into place as that development, kind of took place with the eFoil.
Hey, everybody, we'll get back to the podcast in just a minute, but I wanted to take a pause and tell you about NordVPN. If you're not using a reliable VPN, your private information could be easily accessed by third parties. NordVPN can protect your online activity, but also provide security to browse safely. I've been using NordVPN for a few years, and while I certainly appreciate knowing that my activity is protected, I also use it to watch the Extreme E-Racing live, even though it's not a broadcast that's available in the United States. I just simply connect to a foreign country where the broadcast is showing, and then I can watch without any problems. This also works well if you're interested in watching anything that you might not be able to access from your current location. Right now, NordVPN is running a Black Friday deal where you can get a subscription for only $2.99 a month and get 3 additional months. There is a 30-day money-back guarantee too, so you have nothing to lose by trying it out. Make sure you click the link in the show notes for this exclusive offer and take the easy step to protecting your data with NordVPN. So I want to talk specifically about some of the challenges that you would have had during that design and innovation process to, start with something that's going to blow up to something that goes 100 feet to where you guys are now. There's so many things when you add an electric powertrain to anything that, the variables that are involved in terms of keeping the battery cool or the motor. I mean, the motor's in the water, so I would assume that's, kept cool. Just
still challenging,
but something to keep in mind.
Very challenging.
Or like you were saying with the control, is that wired or is that wireless? And so many other different things that are a part of that. What would you say are some of the biggest challenges that you found that you had to overcome in just the tweaking of the design process throughout the years?
Yeah, it was a big journey, right? So we had explored this world of composites and laminations and molds and whatnot, carbon fiber, which took years and years and years, like I described, right? And now we're jumping into this new evolution, right? To transform and include or evolve, include everything you've learned in the past, but now we're incorporating this electric powertrain into the system. And it's a whole new level of like knowledge and exploration that we have to learn. I didn't know that much about batteries. I didn't know about, I had studied some electrical engineering in college, but that didn't mean that I was an expert in electric motors or any of these components, right? So it was pretty tricky, and I had to go out and find some people that actually knew what they were talking about, and put together a team to help me build this. That was one of the most challenging things, was to get the right people and put them all together and get people communicating, because ultimately what had to happen, we had to have a battery, as a power source, and it had to be a marine grade battery, right? It had to be waterproof.
Yeah.
That's a big deal. Yeah, batteries and water don't go well together. So it had to be this marine grade battery. It had to be robust. It had to have a significant amount of power in it. Heating was an issue, right? It had to be able to absorb its own thermal mass, right? And we also had the control systems, the motor controller, all the electrical wiring and the connections, the motor itself, propellers, which is an art. And then we had to control it all with this wireless signal, right? But you have carbon fiber and salt water and stuff, and signals don't transfer well through carbon fiber and salt water and whatnot. So there was a lot of challenges there that we had to dig into and understand, that we really knew nothing about, getting into it. But we just kind of dug in one problem at a time, and I would say, even when I thought I had a system together that was market worthy, and I was launching this product naively, I might say, is I was launching this product thinking, oh yeah, we'll be at market in 4 months or something like that. And I remember I sat down with a battery engineer in California. He had been designing batteries for the Zero motorcycles. Yep. And I remember he was kind enough to have a lunch with me and sit down. And he said, well, did you think about this? Did you think about that? Did you think about that? You think about that? And I was like, no, 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 no. He's like, you're not ready. And he zipped off on his electric bike. And I was like, oh, great.
Thanks.
So, I had to scrap the design a couple times too to come back and rebuild to something that eventually I felt was ready for the market. And we launched into it. And even after our first launch, I mean, we've learned so much on that system. And even today, whereas we continue to design and evolve our own product, we continue to learn so much. And the lessons never stop coming with that kind of system.
Sure. I imagine that as the market expands for something like this, that the details about how the product is designed have to change or evolve and almost splinter in a way that, because you're going to have people that have zero experience on the water. I myself, I've never been on a surfboard. I've been on boats, but I've never been on anything that was just a watercraft or water sport apparatus for just myself. So there's going to be people like me that are going, hey, that looks cool. I want to do that. And they're going to have a very different experience compared to somebody like yourself who has been around this for years, is more advanced, and certainly has better balance, I'm sure, and all sorts of different things. I'm curious that, naturally, the product is something that is a little different than just a board. So, when somebody needs to carry it from the water back to their vehicle or to wherever they are on the beach, how heavy is it? Is it easy to carry? Obviously it's got batteries built into it, so that's going to make it heavier than probably something that would be without. If you could talk to that for a minute.
Yeah, so there's a couple items there. I mean, one is the product. We built the product that's very accessible for people, and it's not catered towards surfers like myself. I mean, one of the things that was really driving factor, and it's still a driving factor today, is that I'm not going after the surf market. I'm not saying they're not part of our market, right? But I've been trying to get away from the surf market in many ways, where I want regular people that are non-surfers to go out and enjoy what we enjoy, right? I don't want it to be so challenging. I want it to be I want it to be accessible for people, right? And it's not normal surfing. We're flying up over the water. We're hydrofoiling, right? And you don't need a wave to do it. You can do it in flat water, on a lake and a river, right? Off your pier, off your boat. And that's been the beauty and the success of the product, is that it's extremely accessible for everyday people. And even, I've taught friends that are professional surfers, and they crashed more than anybody I know, getting going. I've taught people that are not athletic at all, and they just get up and just have a natural act for it, maybe because they listen to instructions and they just get up and go.
Right.
So
sure.
And I think that that's one of the things too, one of the challenges that we have. Most people are like, wow, that looks so amazing. I don't think I'll be able to do it because I don't know that I have the balance for it. For which I have to go, no, yes, you can do it. We're going to get you out there in a demo. We're going to get you, with one of our demo partners, so you can go out and try it and just see if you like it, see how you go. Everybody who gets out on the eFoil for the first time has fun doing it. It's not to say that you're going to get up and just be ripping around like a pro, but as soon as you put that wireless hand controller in your hand, you're going to be having fun. You're going to have a smile on your face, and you're going to start putting around. You're going to get a feel for the board. You're going to transition into like a kneeling position. You're going to slowly transition over to your feet. I encourage people to keep that board on the water and just surf it on the water for a little bit. Get accustomed to the trigger and the throttle actuation, right? And then when we're ready, we start doing little touch and goes. So we just kind of ease our way into the sport, into the lessons. And what's fun about it is that, it's not so hard that it's discouraging, that like, oh, I'll never get that. Right. But it's not so easy that it's boring.
Right.
It's fun. It's fun to be engaged. It's fun to be able to strive to improve. Right. So you're going to, from the moment that you start, you're going to be getting somewhere and you're going to be having a good time. And there's always room to improve and come back and be like, next time I'm going to do this, or, I'm going to get out where it's a little choppier, or I'm going to fly a little faster. I'm going to carve more aggressive turns. So there's a lot of room to grow in the sport of hydrofoiling. And the product itself is very intuitive. It's very easy to use. It's a modern electric system, right? We're all pretty familiar with electronics. We know where the on and off buttons are, and it's pretty simple to turn on, plug in, turn on, and go. And you got only a couple of screws to assemble it or disassemble it. So ultimately, in the packaging, in its cases, it fits in the back of a small vehicle. And to assemble it takes you less than 5 minutes. And it's easy to carry in and out of the water if you have good access to the water. So it's really not it's not a difficult product to buy into and to start to use. And that's really been part of its success.
Yeah, I mean, naturally, if it were bulky or awkward to carry, that would be a deterrent to the people that would push past that in order to get to the fun down at the water. They'd be like, well, yeah, but, or somebody like you mentioned that might not be the most athletic. The having a lower barrier to entry, I think, is definitely very smart. Where looking outside that surfing market, while you were saying all of that, a thought popped into my head. I think I remembered reading somewhere along the lines that you guys were participating with Electrify Expo, and either BJ or somebody else was going to ride one of these in the New York Harbor, like around the Statue of Liberty. Am I thinking of the right thing? So that's
been done.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So did it end up being BJ or was it somebody else?
I think there's been a couple people that have done that. I know Kai Lenny went out and did it. He's pretty well known in the surf world. And so I think there's a few people that have gone out. I myself have been in the rivers up there in New York. Probably the more intimidating place to go ride, but there's a group of people up there for sure.
Right. Okay. Yeah, because I'm like, wait a minute. I think it's funny, the more I've looked at the website, I'm going, wait, I'm remembering so many other situations where Lyft has kind of come across my radar over the last couple of years, I want to say. Having, I guess, more epic situations like going around the Statue of Liberty. I mean, that's pretty special, just from a sake of, just be able to say, oh yeah, we did this. You yourself have actually gone on a 20-mile ride with one of these. Is that right?
Oh yeah, easy. We can get about 24 miles on our most efficient configuration. So
that is spectacular on the water. Like that is really
it's a long way, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And we were just talking about accessibility of the product, but one way to look at this is it's a flying surfboard, right? Another way to look at this is it's a personal watercraft. And when you look at it from that perspective, right, it's very accessible because, we have a jet ski that we use maybe once a year, maybe.
Sure. Yeah.
We use it to tow into the surf if it gets big, as a utility means. But to launch that thing is so chaotic. We don't have a boat ramp, so we take it on a cart down the beach, and we're crashing it into the surf, and somebody almost pinches a leg or something, and we turn it on, it doesn't work, and we finally fire it up, and the neighbors are all upset, and it's like it's so much work to get that thing in and out of the water, and there's this whole flushing, cleaning process after you've done. I can fit 5 e-foils in the back of my Tundra, right? And we can load them all up, and I'll use them multiple times a week. and I can take all the friends and we can jump in the water and we'll do a 20-mile ride. That's, 10 miles down the coast and 10 miles back up with some reserve in the battery. And we see everything and it's quiet and we're not bothering anybody, and we're just putting around. And if it's choppy or windy, we're up over the waves. So it's just butter smooth no matter what. I mean,
Yeah.
we're doing stuff that you can't do on a jet ski.
Mhm.
It's like powder snowboarding compared to, choppy piste skiing.
Right.
We're up over it, we're floating. And so it's evolved a lot from that 100-foot ride. We really get some distance out of these things. And it's just a great way to go out and explore or go somewhere. Um, I find a lot of use for it here at our home.
I imagine the fact that it's quiet actually would benefit in terms of somebody that might want to look at wildlife, whether it be marine life or birds or other wildlife, that you can get to places and you're not scaring everything away with this loud noise as you're approaching.
Yeah, I would definitely sneak up on some turtles when we're cruising around there. They're hanging and oh my goodness, they dive down. You see a ton of fish. I've been out with whales, riding with whales, dolphin, all the birds. Birds will fly with you too. Sometimes
Oh,
you get
neat.
in there. It's pretty cool, and it's absolutely a new way to explore the waterways where you're not disrupting anything, you're not creating a wake, you're not creating noise, you're not off gassing, exhaust.
Oh, sure.
So it really is a futuristic way. And as we both know, an electric propulsion system is such a smooth way to operate a power system. It's just so direct that you feel like it's a brain signal that's like controlling your motor, and it's just really amazing feeling. You know, Couple that with a small flying surfboard, you barely even see the board, so you literally feel like you're just flying over the water, and it's super quiet and very eerie.
So I am gonna have to experience this. Before we started talking, I was on the web page, and I noticed that you all have a network of affiliate dealerships all around the country where people can go and do a demo ride. They don't even have to buy one. They can just try it out and kind of get this feeling out of it. The idea of just flying over top of the water without like a real awareness of that you're standing on something, like that sounds like it would be out of a dream. I mean, that really sounds really cool.
Yeah, no, it really is an amazing feeling, and that's one of the things that we do as a business is look, it's a new product, right? We're building awareness. They're not cheap, right? But they're really well made. There's a lot that goes into it. And instead of just being, hey, you should buy an e-foil, I said, go try one. So we set up this network of our affiliates that are dedicated to getting people out on the water and showing them a good experience. And so there you can go and you can interact with the product. You can get out and ride it, and test it, take a lesson. And if ultimately you fall in love with it and you say, you know what, this is great, I want to get one for my lake house or whatnot, then you can come out and invest into one. For the first time, just go take a lesson, go check it out for yourself, and guaranteed you're going to come out just completely hooked. So do beware if you go out and take a lesson.
Yeah, and look, I'm okay with that. You know, the majority of my experience in the EV world has been with electric land transportation. Cars, SUVs, trucks, and whatnot. I've started to kind of get into the marine side of things, and I've been just amazed at all of the things that we know an electric vehicle is better than an internal combustion engine vehicle. Well, a lot of that, it makes sense. Like when you talk about it, you're like, oh, well, yeah, of course that would translate to the marine world as well. But you don't actually realize it until you're experiencing it. And then you're like, oh my gosh, like you have that, whoa,
this is what the world has been missing moment,
Yeah.
that many people do the first time they've ever ridden or driven in an electric vehicle. So I'm curious that, I mean, Puerto Rico is where you're headquartered. That's where you live. You've spent
Mhm.
most of your life there. Obviously, been very influenced by the water sport culture of the island. Um, Two questions related to that. One, how do you feel like that might have influenced all of this? And then, secondly, and maybe the smaller question that's easier to answer first would be actually, where are these manufactured?
So we have components that are built all over the world.
Okay.
We do a lot of assembly manufacturing here in Puerto Rico. So that means all the little giblets and parts and pieces come here and they get assembled into the full e-foil assembly.
Mhm.
And we still do composites work here at our shop, where we lay up resins and stuff like that. So there's, part of that early days of building surfboards has transferred into a more sophisticated process. But we still roll up our sleeves and get dirty here. And I've got about 65 guys at our shop here in Puerto Rico.
Wow.
Really amazing people, salt of the earth, kind of people. They're electricians, carpenters, plumbers, mechanics. Really, really great, hardworking individuals. So we have a great community here. It's warm all year round. It's where we were born and raised. It's where we call home, and so we love being here. We're here by choice, and we really do have a great group of employees that really care about the product. They all have e-foils themselves too. We all go out and ride on Sundays.
Cool.
Yeah, so it's a really wonderful place to be. It's a beautiful island with a lot of heart. And so we're here, we're manufacturing here, and we're absolutely from the ocean, living the sport, and creating new sensations to go out and enjoy on the water. So I feel like Puerto Rico plays a big part in our journey, in our life story, in our business story as well.
Yeah, having the environment where almost, I mean, aside from stormy weather, any season you can go out and experience this, I imagine would play a pretty large role. You said you all go out together, and I'm curious. We've described this as either riding or flying. What is a group of people that are, we'll say, flying on an e-foil? Would you call it a flock, like a flock of birds would be? Or, I mean, like, is there a term for such, kind of like a pack? Or like, have you
I don't
guys
know.
thought about that at all?
No, I haven't thought about that. We'll have to put something together for sure.
Yeah,
But we certainly turn into a pack. That's, when you get even like 20 guys out on the water
oh,
foiling together, it's a sight. It's a sight to see
I
for
bet,
sure.
I bet.
Yeah.
That's pretty interesting.
Eh,
Another thought that popped into my head. I very much am a competitive person. If you get me anywhere near a racetrack, I want to be on the track, running around, seeing either how fast I can go, or I want to race with other people. Do you guys have e-foil racing, or have you set up like a little, like even not officially, like just even
Yeah.
unofficially, just hey, you get two people aside one another. Do you try to see who can kind of go faster, or has there been any talk about having like a formal e-foil racing league almost, or something like that?
Yeah. So I have partners up in Finland, that have put on some pretty serious races on the e-foils, and they've sent me videos, and it looks like, I mean, they did do a really great job, and it looks like a lot of fun. They're cruising. They put big buoys out. They set up like a slalom course,
Right.
on the lakes, and they're going fast. It definitely looks like they got some adrenaline pumping for sure. I come from a strong racing background. Um, when I was a kid, I was really into windsurfing racing, so sailing races. I'd go out and practice every day. And with the hydrofoils, we started racing hydrofoils on kites. So we were flying some big, powerful kites. and we were going really fast around the race course. We used to race our paddle boards, right? We built racing paddle boards, so we were doing kind of slower but more endurance racing.
Sure.
So I have a strong background in that. With the e-foil, though, me personally, I haven't pursued a race on the e-foil just because one, it can just be all encompassing, just like it just sucks all your energy into like building this elite product, and you forget about what's important, which is building a product for the masses, for a larger group of people. Maybe I've just lost my edge over time, but the other thing I love about the e-foil is that you don't have to go fast to really enjoy it. You can actually be going pretty slow, and you're still flying. It's like slow flight, and it's such a cool feeling to like just whip around and create some turns. So I definitely think that there is there's a group of people that are going to want to obviously go as fast as they can possibly go, and they're going to get into the racing aspect of it. But I encourage, I guess, the sport and the message that we try to build primarily from our brand is something that's just fun to go out and cruise on and enjoy your surroundings and like enjoy that feeling of flying, which is really attractive to people.
I guess a follow-up to that one is, how slow can you go while still engaging the foil itself so that you're above the water? Like, what's the minimum speed in order to maintain that?
It's going to depend on wing size and rider size. I'd say a rough number is probably minimum is like 10 miles per hour is going to be stall speed.
And then
so
the other
10's pretty slow, but 12 already you feel pretty good. It's like you're not right on the edge. I'm typically cruising around like 14, 15 miles per hour. And if you get up to 20, you're feeling like you're going pretty quick over some waves.
Is that the top speed, around 20 miles an hour or so?
No, I've hit about 32.
Whew.
I've taken it up to the lakes and just to see how fast I can go.
Right.
I've hit about 32 with certain wing configurations and custom props and spooled up motors. And I'll tell you, you hit the water pretty hard at 32.
Oh, I mean, the water's practically solid at that speed. I mean, that's fast for going over water. Certainly.
It's fast when you're flying. Yeah, it's fast when you're flying for sure, over water on a hydrofoil.
So when you're going, I mean, do you guys have a speedometer built into not the foil itself necessarily, but maybe the handheld controls, or how do you know how fast you are going?
Yeah, so our latest hand controller that we just launched, it's our Elite hand controller. It has a GPS built into the hand controller, so it gives you a speedometer, which is of course your ground speed, right?
Sure.
If you're in the ocean here, sometimes you're going against a current, and so your ground speed might be a little bit different than what your actual indicated airspeed would be if you had like a pitot tube or whatnot. But
right.
The GPS inside that hand controller will tell you how fast you're going. Our other hand controller doesn't have a GPS in it, but you can easily access GPS with your iWatch, or 5 different devices that you have around the house.
So, I mean, that kind of leads me to be curious that with an electric anything, you're going to need feedback in terms of, the battery state of charge. And I imagine a number of other things. How do you guys give that information to whoever is riding it?
You have a screen display on your hand controller, right? Okay. And so the most important instrument is your battery gauge. It's just telling you how much you got left. And if it's, our batteries are pretty generous. So if you're doing a moderate ride, you barely even need to look because, you got a lot of battery remaining. But at a quick glance, you can just see, I got 65% or whatever the amount is. From there, too, you can change your power settings. So you can change your throttle profiles that way, just by manipulating power settings and putting different limits, governors in there. You can also get a power draw from it. So to see, well, how much power am I burning? If you're really interested in seeing like how efficient am I being with the product, and of course you can see your speed on the Elite hand controller. You can see elapsed time, distance traveled, that kind of stuff. So primary one is battery gauge, and for the most part, I'm looking out, just looking at the scenes. But if you really want to geek out, yeah, there's plenty of settings in there that you can kind of play with.
Yeah, that would be me.
Yeah.
Any data feedback information, like I'm the guy that's calculating the energy consumption as you go along, comparing that to the state of charge on the battery, and trying to use all of that to figure out, well, how much time do I have left, or how much distance do I have left? That for somebody like me would, that's awesome. I suspect
Right.
most people probably don't care that much about it, but it's nice that you guys were thoughtful enough about things to include that in, the feedback that you're giving people. The handheld controller, is that something that is attached to the wrist, so that if you did let go, it's not going to fall into the water, and I don't even know what would happen at that point. Like what when things go not the way they're supposed to, if somebody falls off or drops something, what happens?
Oh, nothing. You swim back and get on the board and do it again. The hand controller has a hand strap on it, and you could tie a lanyard if you want. It's really not necessary. I don't think I've ever heard of anybody losing a hand controller while being out riding. Our hand controllers, they float,
Oh,
so which is probably question number one that I've received over time, right? Does it float?
right.
Yes, it does float. There are some hand controllers out there that don't float. I don't know how you would get by with a non-floating hand controller. That could be a bad
Right.
scenario pretty quick.
Yeah.
Um, but they float. They have a hand strap on them for the most part. You're not going to lose it. And crashing off the board is totally part of the experience. You're gonna crash. You're gonna get wet, and that's perfectly fine. You just get back on the water or get back on the board, climb up, and do it
Right.
again.
So make
Yeah.
sure you're dressed properly. Riding it with a 3-piece suit or a tux is probably not ideal if you're gonna get wet.
People have done that too.
Oh man, I'd love to see a video of that. That would be awesome. Well, I know we kind of had allotted about an hour or so for this conversation. I got to tell you, I'm having a lot of fun learning about this, and I really suspect that a lot of people that are going to either watch or listen to this are going to want a lot more information. They're going to want to explore this, and I suspect that the curiosity that I'm feeling is going to be shared quite a bit. How can they kind of satisfy their curiosity and explore and figure it out? Is going to the website kind of the first step in that process?
I'd say so. I mean, that's a great place to start, right? Is go to liftfoils.com. That's our particular brand. Of course, there's more information online, lots of videos to explore about the sport and the segment. That if you go to liftfoils.com, you're going to see about the different product. You're going to see some fun videos on there. Up there too, we have our demos. So we have a menu item that's demos. If you click on that, you can find out where some of our affiliates are near you, near the listeners. And I think that's a great way to go experience a product, see it in person, do a lesson, and just go out and try one. Go out for a ride and see if it's for you. It's so much fun. Or maybe it's a great way to take family out and friends. It's a great way to get the kids all together on something that's fun. Go do a lesson with an affiliate. Do a little road trip or find out where they are in your local area, and go do some hydrofoiling, do some flying.
Awesome. We could probably end up talking for quite a lot more, because there's so much about this that, as we've been talking, I'm going, oh, well, wait, what about this or that? Like, we could take a long time, but I want to be respectful to the audience as well as to you for the time that you're giving up in order to join me here. I've got a couple of questions that I've started to ask everybody I'm talking to before ending an episode. The first is, what do you drive? Now, you mentioned having a Tundra earlier. Of course, Toyota Tundra, great truck. Do you have anything else that you use as your primary transportation?
Well, yeah. So I've got a 2010 Tundra that's kind of my beach wagon. I can toss the foils in there. One of the beaches that we go to a lot is you got to go through big mud puddles and whatnot to get there. And so, I was tempted to upgrade my truck recently, and I was like, nah, I'm just gonna wear this one down into the ground. I'm definitely interested in electric truck, the Ford or even what potentially will come out with Toyota. I do have to say I'll probably wait till version 2 or 3 just to make sure they get all the bugs worked
Yeah,
out.
sure.
I've been there, and but yeah, that's pretty much primary vehicle. Learning how to fly these days, really enjoy that. Don't own an aircraft, but love to go out and rent one and fly around a
Oh,
little
cool.
bit. Yeah, and other than that, I mean, my surfboard, do some distance on the e-foil, do a distance on my classic foil. Love to go out and swim, paddle. That's pretty much gets me everywhere I need to go around here.
Nick, I mean, you're painting this picture of such a rough life that you've got down there in Puerto
Yeah.
Rico. It's like, that sounds pretty good. We've probably answered the next question in a few different pieces throughout our conversation, but I just asked you, what do you drive? And the reason I worded it that way is because the second question as the pair is, what drives you? In terms of like when you wake up in the morning, what is the primary thing that's just pushing you forward to do what you do?
I mean, when it comes to business, and my business is really tied into my lifestyle, I'm really driven by the product. So I'm still an engineer, and I love product development. I love it more than numbers. It's not dollars that drive me in the morning, that's for sure. Um, I like all the things that we're developing. I love getting into the shop and getting with the guys and just seeing like the new stuff that's coming in, samples. You know, I love designing new wings to go out and hydrofoil on. Really drives my sporting aspect too of getting out and flying on new wings. So all that stuff, I really enjoy it. It's a lot of fun for me, and there's just so much that we can build with these different technologies. I mean, when you get into hydrofoils and then electric mobility, I mean, it's just endless, the different combinations of things that you can put together. I have to pick and choose the projects that we get to work on. But we dig in pretty deep into these projects, and I get pretty excited about building that stuff and sharing it with my family. My family is very involved in the business and involved in the sports, and my friends. And so we have it's a lifestyle, everything that we're building is what we want to go out and enjoy, so we're creating adventures for ourselves, and that keeps me pretty motivated.
So I'm gonna boil down what you just said to 3 words and tell me if I've hit it on the head or if I'm completely off. It sounds like what you get excited about is sharing fun with others, having community, and being able to explore in many ways new ideas and new products, and just being an explorer. Is that,
Oh yeah,
did I kind of get that right?
that's
Or
good. That's a good summary. It's a good summary.
I love that. Well, Nick, I want to thank you very much for joining me, and certainly what you're doing, it sounds like a lot of fun. Absolutely.
Well, thank you. It is a lot of fun, and I appreciate being on your show and being able to share that.
So I really hope you enjoyed the interview with Nick. If you want to follow Lift Foils, you can go on the webpage. It's LIFTFOILS, liftfoils.com. You can set up a demo ride at a place close to wherever you are, provided that there's water. That is, if you're in the middle of the country, you're probably going to have to travel a little bit. But if you're on one of the coasts or down in Puerto Rico, certainly lots of opportunity to hop on a foiling electric surfboard. I mean, personally, I haven't gotten a chance to yet. I'm looking forward to it. I really, really want to give this a shot because it looks like so much fun. And then, of course, talking to Nick, clearly you can just hear how much fun this is. So I definitely will look forward to that. And certainly if I do, I'm going to bring along a video camera and a couple GoPros so that we can capture that and share it with all of you. Before I end the episode, as always, I want to thank the Patreon supporters. At the director tier, we have Rajeev, Narayan, and Andy Cooper. Then at the executive producer tier, Christopher Lawrence. And at the producer tier, Charles Hall, Eric Weber, and Bruce Gallant. So thank you very much to all of you who are continuing to support me. As for the rest of the year, 2023 here with the podcast, I am basically just going to catch up on the backlog of all the really awesome interviews with various CEOs and company executives and basically the industry experts that are either sharing something specific about their company, or we are going to talk about a lot of things related to EV charging payment processing or battery chemistry and technology and some really, really awesome stuff coming down the line. But with that in mind, I am not going to be covering the news the rest of the year. It is unknown whether we will continue that in next year or not. I haven't made up my mind about it, and certainly I understand that that's what this podcast started with. Big changes to EV Resource as a whole coming in 2024. So definitely some exciting things, but it is going to be a little different. So I'm more than welcome to get feedback. Of course, as always, if you are interested in providing any feedback or have questions or comments, you can reach me at hello@ev-resource.com. But yeah, for right now, that's going to be it. So thank you so much for watching and listening, and I will catch you all next time.